Oh, Rebel Moon, what a disappointment. I really wanted to absolutely love this movie, especially as I would classify myself as a big Zack Snyder fan. I mean, the Snyder cut of the Justice League was absolutely phenomenal, so I was really looking forward to watching Rebel Moon, especially with all of the hype machine going on behind the scenes, but it was just unfortunately not that great of a movie, and it was just such a wannabe Star Wars Dune to the point where it just ended up being a bit of a parody. I mean, even on that point, the name is a bit of a mock of Star Wars, but it just did not work that well. And I mean, ultimately, you know, it is a bit of an epic space opera film that takes itself way too seriously. I mean, even though it does have some cool moments in there, they just kind of feel a little bit forced together instead of being really seamless and intuitive. And so it just feels like it's not well put together. And I mean, we have seen so many aspects of this movie being so much better done in other places, for example in Star Wars, for example in Dune, and even the team formation stuff, which was so much better done in One Piece on Netflix versus Rebel Moon on Netflix. But like I said, you know, there are a couple of positives in this movie. For example, it does definitely feel like they are creating a universe, and it definitely does feel very lived in, and you can see all of the experiences of the people at the top versus all of the people at the bottom. And I think there's so much social commentary to be had as a reflection of what mankind is really capable of. And I think the final act of this movie definitely is really, really spectacular. And it definitely does have you on the edge of your seat in terms of who is going to survive and who can you trust, who is going to betray another team member. All of that stuff was really, really cool. And I think even though this movie definitely was a big setup to the sequel, I feel like all of the individual team building growing moments were good in terms of not being too long or too short. I mean, the character development for all of the different team members definitely could have been expanded upon, but in terms of how they are entering your party, I think all of the RPG element stuff was really, really good. Now let's look at it from a constructive perspective. So I think one of the main criticisms that a lot of people say that I have to agree with as well is just the overuse of slow motion. I mean, I feel like this is a device that you use once, maybe twice, to really add depth and really grab the audience in really big, spectacular moments. But the fact that this was just peppered in across this movie just made it pretty laughable and actually detracted from when it really should be added and when it should be used. And I just feel like the start of this movie was so slow and it just really put me off just wanting to watch the rest. It definitely did improve as the movie did go on, and you can see why they were doing that, as they were trying to build affinity with these farmer characters, but I just feel like the way in which it was executed just could have been so much better. And you can just tell, like I said, also from a laughable perspective, how desperate it is in terms of trying to copycat and embody other moments from other films. So it just comes across really, really cringeworthy. And it clearly is a part one of a part two storyline, which is fine, as it ultimately means that the second part can really just get going and you're literally going to love the second movie because you know all of the backstory, everything has been set up, so it can literally just throw itself into the chaos, and I'm sure the second movie will be really, really good. But I feel like you just have to work so much harder in that case to make the first part really stand on its own. Some of the twists you can definitely see coming, as like I said, you've seen them better done in other places. Some of the CGI was a little bit laughable as well. I mean, certain moments, I have to give it credit, did look really, really good. But other times, you could just tell that they're just in front of a green screen, they're just walking around with the volume being used everywhere, and it did kind of detract from the viewing experience. Other moments were really, really boring, and like I said, you've just seen it done so much better in Star Wars, and I feel like the tone was literally all over the place. It feels a little bit butchered, and I really do want to see the Snyder cut of this film, because I'm sure that will be a lot better. But it was trying to be comedic at certain moments, trying to take itself really, really seriously, trying to be really emotional. All of the backstory stuff was interesting as it was setting up this universe, but I just feel like it was just a bit of a convoluted mess at points. From a casting perspective, I feel like it's a little bit mixed. So Sofia Boutella is absolutely brilliant as Kora. She is such a badass, and I feel like as the main lead character, you're really with her. You can really feel all of the tragic pain that this character has had to go through, and I just feel like that transformation moment when she goes from a farmer to actually being the heroine of this entire movie, and in particular in the first instance saving the farm people, I feel like that sequence was really, really good. And I do think she actually holds the movie together really, really well in terms of exploring all of these different planets, in terms of recruiting all of these people. They are really big characters in and of themselves, and they wouldn't join a random character, but she definitely does showcase why people should actually follow her as a leader. So I feel like Kora is really, really good. Djimon Hounsou definitely has got a lot of acting pedigree and definitely does have a lot of presence when he is on screen, but I feel like his character was pretty much underdeveloped, and you could just know more about this character from what's said about him in the past, but you don't really see it. But I'm sure that they'll fix this in the sequel. Michiel Huisman was really good. I thought he was absolutely brilliant in A Boy Called Christmas, and I think his character here is really interesting as he is a farmer that you're not really sure if you can trust him, as he does do a lot of shady things and he does go behind a couple of characters' backs, and he does definitely want more from life, so I'm sure that this character will be a lot more layered in the sequel as well. Skrein honestly feels totally miscast as the main villain in this film. I mean, the character definitely does do some barbaric things, and I think most of that can be credited to the script, but in terms of his performance, I could not feel him as a threatening character at all. I feel like his subordinates definitely did come across in terms of being really intimidating, in terms of being really evil, but I just feel like this character, by contrast to Djimon and Hounsou, just did not have any of that threatening presence. I mean, if he was going to be an evil mastermind character that is a little bit psychotic like the Joker, then that could have worked, but I just feel like this character really needed somebody to embody that sophistication of a really evil barbaric character, and for me, unfortunately, I don't think Skrein did that. And if anything, I just feel like he detracted from the movie, as I just could not get behind this character being the real evil big bad. It's really cool to see Ray Fisher here once again in another Zack Snyder project, obviously criminally underused as Cyborg in the Justice League movies, and he was really good here. Obviously, we're not going to see this character again in the future, but I feel like he was really cool here. And Charlie Hunnam, another one, absolutely brilliant. I feel like he was a little bit underused across this movie, but that twist that then takes place towards the end of this film was absolutely pure class, and I feel like he was a really layered character, and I feel like his writing was actually done really well. So, you know, I really wanted to root for Rebel Moon, as like I said, I am a Zack Snyder fan, but unfortunately the end product with this first installment of the Rebel Moon franchise for me just wasn't good enough. I mean, it is a watchable movie, but it could have and should have just been so much more, and I do not think that it's going to dethrone Star Wars as being the new big epic franchise and new IP, and so for all of those reasons, I'm going to give Rebel Moon Part 1 a 2.5 out of 10. Now I'd love to hear from you. What did you think of this film? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, and I look forward to seeing you in my next video.